Screen Blur.
Hello and welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss the good, the bad, and the savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Meisner.
And this week, we are just a herd of animals. Me and Laura combined, along with the rest of the world, you included. I got nothing else to say to that one.
Do you know what a group of crows are called?
A flock?
A murder.
Oh, good Lord. That's frightening.
I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm going to pretend it's right. I'm pretty sure.
That sounds right.
A murder of crows.
Am I gonna die?
No. 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 I just like true crime. And when you said animals, herds of animals, that was the first fact that came to my mind.
So we're a herd of murdering crows now?
I was like, what do I know? Like a group of something is called a what? Like a gaggle of geese.
It kind of worries me the first thing you're
crows.
Thinking of is murdering.
Because all I do is watch true crime. What do you mean? Of course I'm thinking of murder. Obviously.
We're just a group of murdering crows.
Sorry, a gaggle of geese.
A gaggle of geese, murder of crows. What's next?
That sounds like the name of a young adult novel. A Murder of Crows.
It sounds like a great band, but I think a band like that does exist.
Flock of Seagulls.
Well, there's Flock of... Yes. Yes, there's Flock of Seagulls.
I am on top of this today. I got all the one-liners.
Oh, man. This week we're talking about Animal House. Classic
Nothing
film.
to do with actual animals.
Yeah.
There is a horse.
Metaphorically.
There is a horse.
Yeah, there is a horse. And Animal House is from 1978. For those of us who were not born in the 70s, we got to go back in time a little bit to watch this one. But Animal House from 1978, National Lampoon's Animal House, and by golly, is this movie a treat.
A hoot.
A hoot. Yes, Animal House. Laura, is there anything you'd like to start us off with real quick just to give us a little bit of a taste of what we're getting into?
We're doing stuff before the side slurps. You're throwing me off. I don't know.
Just give me a sprinkle.
A sprinkle. Okay, ready? Toga, 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 toga. That's my sprinkle.
Oh my goodness. We're going to get real deep into the shenanigans of this movie because if you don't already know what this movie entails, then...
Lots of shenanigans.
Just all you need to do is go to college and look at every boy's dorm room and you'll see the posters on the wall. That's all I got to say about that one. But we'll get real deep into what this movie's all about right after our side slurps. That's right, our side slurps are the things that we've done other than watch the movie of the week. Things like watching other movies, other TV shows. Maybe we are just walking around the block, taking a look at other people's dogs, other people's animals, and just admiring them for the way that they look because, you know, I can't get enough of all the small dogs of Chicago, Illinois. There's just so many of them, and they're just exciting.
Yeah.
Laura, you're just dying over there.
It's just such a random little thought. It's very precious, though. There are lots of cute dogs.
I think in our neighborhood especially, everyone's got tiny dogs. There are some larger dogs, I will say.
He has like a golden retriever. That's a bigger one.
But we also have a neighbor, too, that always takes out his little tiny white-haired dog and just sits there near the sidewalk with it. And I gotta say, it's
They're
pretty funny.
Cute. It's a cute little doggy.
Anyways, Laura, what have you been up to this past week?
Anyways, let's see. I've really been in a video game playing, like, mood, kick, era, whatever we want to call it. So I did finally beat Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West. A great game. Really, really good game. And I was asking Adam, like, I don't know what to play next. I was thinking of doing Breath of the Wild because we never actually played that one, but I was like, I don't know. I want something that's like Assassin's Creed and like Forbidden West. You know, those are the games like I actually can play because I'm anything else I'm not good at, so I can't do. So I was like, give me something in that realm.
It's got to have a story to it.
Yeah. And Adam, you suggested Ghost of Tsushima. I'm like nasally right now still from being sick. I cannot pronounce that word right now because I get like congested up. Tsushima. Oh my God. It's like my like nose and my mouth just like block, and I'm like,
you're over there just.
I'm trying. Tsushima. Oh my God. Okay, that game. And I'm really enjoying it, actually. It reminds me a lot of Assassin's Creed. It's very, very similar. I love that there's like this involved plot, but you know, you have the side quests and the main quests, and you got to do all these little fun things. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I think I finished the first act, so I think there's 3 acts. So I'm maybe like a third of the way through.
And for all the film lovers out there, there is a Kurosawa mode that you can enable in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. And if you choose that mode, it's Japanese audio, English subtitles, and then it's black and white.
Yeah,
so it looks very much like a Kurosawa film. I didn't go with that one just because the graphics on the game are beautiful, and I wanted to like fully appreciate that. So I went with the color version because again, I wanted to like the red and like it's so like aesthetic, and I really wanted to see that. But I did go with the Japanese audio and the English subtitles, but not the full Kurosawa option. But anyway, playing that, I obviously still play Dreamlight Valley and Genshin Impact. I'm kind of like caught up on those games right now until updates come out. So I just kind of log in and do little things and then go and play Ghosts. And for my books, I finally finished the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. And let me just say, I honestly think I could say that series is the best fantasy series I have ever read.
Interesting.
And I read Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings, but there's something about Throne of Glass that was so freaking good. It's just like it did everything I would want out of a fantasy series. Like there could have been more smut, but other like for the fantasy series, like it gave me everything I wanted, and it was just so good. And the characters, you just love them, and it's just I cannot say enough good things about Throne of Glass.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks to my sister for suggesting I read it because it was great. And now I'm rereading From Blood and Ash, which is like another fantasy series I've read before. It's not great, but you read it because it's like it's fun. Book talk. And I have this bad thing where I read so much, I don't retain a lot of what I read though. So even though I've read this series from Blood and Ash, I read the whole series before, I honestly could not tell you what happens in it. I literally just read it probably like last year or the year before. I just have no retention because I read so much, I think. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through and reread it again and see like how it compares to Throne of Glass and some of the other stuff that I've been reading.
I get that vibe with movies from time to time because you just watch so many over time.
Like oversaturated.
And when you watch a movie and the years go by and you've watched numerous other movies over the years, then for some films, you might be going through a streaming service or something and you see the movie come up and it's like, I've watched this movie. I know I've watched this movie, but really, what was the content of that movie?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should feel bad about that for the film's creator. Like, I'm sorry, I don't remember the content of your movie, even though I've watched this movie, but I watched it maybe 5 or more years ago, and it's still just not retaining in my mind. Whereas there's other movies where I could have watched that movie 10 years ago or longer, and it's never going away.
Yeah.
Like, that content is never leaving my mind.
No, that's very true. That is very true. I think, though, too, I mean, part of it is just our brains can only hold so much stuff, right? And, plots of, like, movies or books are low priority. So our brains, like, that's something I can throw out. I can, like, divest that information. I don't need to know that. So I think that's why. But the movies that you remember are ones that hold, like, a really important place in your heart, or have, like, like a good memory associated to it or something. And that's why those ones you retain. Like Son-in-Law, other than us reviewing that for an episode a while ago, I hadn't watched that movie in over a decade probably, but I could still quote like every single line of that movie. And it's just because it was such a big thing for me and my sister. Like we would watch that movie over and over and over again. Whereas, like last episode, I still can't even remember the plot of Gladiator. And I've seen that more recently. And I'm like, I have no idea. So it's just human brains.
Yeah.
They're crazy. Crazy, crazy. The last thing I was going to talk about is something that Adam hates and I love. And that is that there is a new season currently on of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
I won't say that I hate it. It's not hatred necessarily. I just find it humorous to watch that show.
I find it so interesting.
I find it very humorous to watch that show. And perhaps a lot of other people do as well. But I also find it interesting. It's interesting and also incredibly humorous to watch that show.
I just feel like so much happens there that you can't really explain. So there's got to be something going on.
It's also the feeling I get when I watch a show about ghost hunting.
Oh, same thing. Same thing, man. I'm like, I feel the same about ghost hunting as I do about Skinwalker. I'm like, there's just so much stuff. Like, lots of people can't be imagining the same thing. There's got to be something going on.
I have a little bit more believability with Skinwalker Ranch.
You believe Skinwalker more than the ghost shows?
Honestly,
yeah. As I say that, but I'm like, Skinwalker Ranch, they actually do like scientific like studies. Like, they have like, ghost shows also do sometimes. They have like readings and whatever that they do and stuff.
Yeah, no,
but I think Skinwalker is very scientific.
I feel like the ghost hunting shows, though, I feel like the people on those shows and the things that they're doing, that very much more so seems like it's a bunch of BS.
My questioning when you said that was more along the lines of like, I feel like ghosts are more believable than their idea of Skinwalker Ranch. Well, I don't know, actually. So where Skinwalker Ranch is like, like otherworldly beings and portals and like black holes and things. And now I say that, but I'm like, actually, that probably is more believable.
Both of them are just human concepts,
I love them.
That they're trying to see if their ideas are factual.
Yeah.
By like through testing.
Yeah. I love ghost hunting shows. I love Skinwalker Ranch. The cast of characters, they're real people, so it's not really a cast of characters. But you know what I mean? They're just so like eclectic. And I love them. Because you have the like really, really smart doctor guy who worked for like the Pentagon under their like UFO project or whatever. And then you have this guy called Dragon, who's just like the security at the ranch.
That's exactly why I laugh at it.
I love them all. Skinwalker Ranch is such a good show. I think this is like the 4th or 5th season. So listeners, if you haven't watched it, go and find it. It's on Hulu. It's on History Channel. It's so good. I am very much invested in this show. And that will be the end of my side slurps, Adam.
Like, watching that show to me is essentially like watching a film because of the character names and things like that. I'm like, this is really happening. Yeah, Dragon.
The other one's like Dr. Taylor, I think. Is that his name? Oh, God. I'm terrible. See, the retention thing. I love this show. I could tell you the experiments they do. I can't tell you their damn names.
It is astounding. It is amazing. And it's so crazy. Well, what I've been up to this past week, other than Skinwalker Ranch.
You haven't been watching Skinwalker Ranch.
I have been, along with Laura, I will say, we've both been watching the TV series What If on the Disney streaming service. And now that is a show that if you haven't seen that yet, but you're obsessed with the Marvel Universe, I would say you should definitely check that out because I was certainly taken by surprise.
That one, though, you definitely do need to have watched the Marvel stuff from before it.
Yeah, I would highly suggest doing that.
I think otherwise you would get really confused.
Yeah, I would highly suggest getting up to speed on what's going on in the Marvel Universe and then watching What If. But it's very interesting and also surprisingly dark for an animated show on the Disney streaming service. And it really is just based on the question of what if in the Marvel Universe. It's just episodes are showcasing something happened in the Marvel Universe. It's showing you this is what actually happens in the Marvel Universe. But what if, instead of that, what if this happened on the other side? And
did you have an episode in particular that you really liked?
I would say the episode that shows the other side of Doctor Strange.
I was going to say the same. The Doctor Strange episode was my favorite also.
Just because that was so incredibly dark.
Intense.
That was, very, very intense.
No, that was good. That was my favorite episode, honestly, too. That, and like, I also like the one where if T'Challa became the Star-Lord. I thought that was good too.
Yeah, I was also going to say
Doctor Strange.
I was also going to say the episode with the guy that was the villain from Black Panther.
Oh, Killmonger.
Yeah,
like if he was Tony Stark's
if he was Tony Stark's protege. Yeah.
The whole series is great.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And I feel like it all ties together really well. Like it'll be interesting to see what they do for season 2 with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a fascinating series and very well done and interesting to see as a animated series. I love animated television.
The style of it's really cool too. It's like kind of comic booky, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting style choice.
Very, very interesting. Very cool. And I've also been watching the TV series Intervention off and on. That's just one I like to go to in my spare time.
It's our new oh shit. What's the show with Taffer? John Taffer?
Bar Rescue?
Yeah, that's your new Bar Rescue obsession. You've moved on from Bar Rescue and now we're in Intervention.
It's those psychological shows where I just like to see like why people are just working the way they do in these reality television shows. And Intervention is just, it's dark.
It's also,
but
sad.
And sad. But it's interesting to see the stories that these people are kind of going through and what brought them to the places they're at and seeing them go through the change in these shows. And I think the last episode of Intervention that I watched from a very old season was very intense and very interesting to see the outcome of what she was kind of going through, where producers had to kind of interject when she tried to use an entire pill bottle on herself and they had to call for an ambulance for her. The producers of the show had to kind of interject on that.
Yeah, it was an intense episode.
That was a very intense episode. So that is a TV series I've been watching, and an interesting book that I've begun reading myself is entitled Analog, from the MIT Press Essential Knowledge series. That's an intense book I'm reading myself. The difference between Laura and I is she reads a lot of fiction books. I read a lot of nonfiction books.
Yeah.
And with this book in particular, I gotta say, I haven't been taking notes or anything while I'm reading it. And I jokingly told Laura that I should have been taking some notes, because as I continue reading through some of the chapters, I'm starting to, I think I'm losing track myself as I go through it, and they say some very interesting things. And then the author starts talking about Plato or Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher. And I learned
about Nietzsche in grad school.
Yeah, I'm already sitting there looking at the book like...
I have lots of little Post-it notes that I use to annotate books you can borrow, and you can start marking stuff.
Yeah, I should probably just pull out a notebook where I'm at right now in the book and just start taking some notes. I might just do that. I might just start taking some notes from where I'm at. Because it's really interesting. The book's basically just comparing, right now in today's time, everything is digital or digital based. And the question becomes, why are we all obsessed with analog? Why do we want everything to be analog? And we all like vinyl and Polaroid films and things like that. Why do we want to go back to this time of analog?
Like the nostalgia.
Have the this retro analog take on things when everything in today's time is so conveniently digital. So it's kind of a compare and contrast look at today's time, but it gets so much deeper than that, as it kind of looks at hundreds of years ago as we're kind of developing as humans in technology's take on our humanistic traits, which is where my brain was like, huh? I thought we were just talking about technology. So yeah, I'll start taking some notes. I'll
start taking some notes.
And that's basically what I've been up to this past week. And with that being said, I got some film news to talk about here for this week's episode. And interestingly enough, in the film news, let's talk about some big film news here. Netflix's new password sharing cost details have been shared for the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Laura, what do you think about that?
It's like $8, right?
I believe so.
How much is a normal Netflix account?
I thought it was pretty much that, wasn't it?
We don't know how much the price.
Laura.
What are they going to do? Come after us? But yeah, I like at that
$12
point,
or something.
I mean, that's what they're trying to do. That's why it's so high. They're just like trying to force everyone to just get their own accounts. It's so dumb.
It is. I think it's ridiculous. And no other streaming app does that yet. And I think this is Netflix trying to start the bar.
They have enough money. Why do they need more?
Like, I believe other streaming apps, what they see with Netflix doing this, if people start paying for account sharing, then other streaming apps are just going to follow suit.
Yeah. I think what they might see is they'll have less subscribers.
That's what everyone's hoping for.
Less people watching.
And, if people are already sharing accounts and then the people that are sharing accounts are just dropping out and people will stop using Netflix or don't pay for sharing accounts, then I think that either Netflix will not do the paying to share
go
or
back on it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how this pans out. I think that's a very interesting thing. I hope that what happens is that they drop this, or if worst case scenario, maybe they'll just be like, well, we decreased the cost.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I don't think they'll make it nothing. They'll probably just be like, well, we're penny pinchers.
$2.
$2 to share your account.
$2.99.
It's a $6 charge now.
$5.99.
Please come back.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Do you really want to watch Stranger Things?
I have some news.
What's that?
Not movie news, but, media news. Today was the PlayStation Showcase.
Ooh.
And they announced some new games and such that are going to be coming out. So they announced that they're going to do a reboot of Metal Gear Solid 3, which, Adam, you said that's a great game, right?
I got to get my exclamation point sound effect in here. Just.
I never played Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, Metal Gear Solid's the jam.
I would like it, though, because there's a lot of sneaking, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
you got to get the right outfits on so that you can blend in with the right area. And I remember the one boss in Metal Gear Solid 3. The fear. The fear. Oh, it was great.
Well, they're doing a reboot. And then they also announced Final Fantasy 16. I think it's 16. That's going to be coming out. And then what I'm really interested about, obviously, is in October, we'll have the new Assassin's Creed game. And it's Assassin's Creed Mirage. And I guess it's following one of the side characters from Valhalla. And it's in the Middle East. It's set in the Middle East. So that should be exciting. It'll be interesting to see, too, like the mechanics of the game, what they do. Because I think a lot of people weren't that happy with Valhalla. It's a little iffy. I really liked Odyssey. I didn't like Origins. I was like, with Valhalla. So I guess we'll see how Mirage goes. What they do with that.
That sounds interesting. I'm curious to see. Assassin's Creed just keeps going on and on and on.
It has such a good, world building to it. It's such an interesting premise. It sucks that the movie was so bad.
Yeah, that it is very interesting.
Because it would be... They should do, a TV show.
I mean, everybody loves the video games, and that's why it keeps going on.
They're great. I love them.
I find it interesting that in other news, Joaquin Phoenix's next film is going to be directed by Todd Haynes. And apparently, Joaquin Phoenix said he would like it to be NC-17. And it's something he is pushing for.
Now, whenever you say apparently, I think of the apparently kid. You remember that YouTube video I showed you?
No.
Oh, that little kid, he's like, apparently I've never been on live television before. Like, yeah. And he's like, Grandpa's a Powerball. You don't remember that video?
I think I do now.
Apparently.
Well, okay. So, no, this gets better, though. With Todd Haynes says this in a quote. So, and get this. So the next film that Todd Haynes and Joaquin Phoenix are going to make. So this is from Todd Haynes. So, quote, "The next film is a feature that's an original script that I developed with Joaquin Phoenix based on some thoughts and ideas he brought to me. We basically wrote with him as a story writer. Me and John Raymond and Joaquin share the story credit, and we hope to be shooting it beginning early next year. It's a gay love story set in 1930s LA. Joaquin was pushing me further and going, no, let's go further. This will be an NC-17 film."
I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor, so I feel like anything he does will be great.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
I am curious to see what if they do make an NC-17 film? Are they just not going to put it out in mainstream movie theaters, and then there's going to be special theaters that are like, hey, come see Joaquin Phoenix's NC-17 film?
Who cares? Yeah. I like rating. Let movies be. Everyone's seen a naked body at this point.
Or put it on a streaming service too.
I've seen worse stuff in like R-rated films, like in Saw. Like that shit is scarring. Or the Terrifier. What was that movie with the clown I watched?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. That I will never, like, that has scarred me, and nothing will ever be as bad as that. So bring it on.
Some of Rob Zombie's horror movies.
Bring on the NC-17 from Joaquin Phoenix. If I can survive Terrifier 2, I can survive that. You were sleeping while I was watching that. That movie really fucked me up.
All right, well, let's slide into this week's film, which is Animal House. Animal House from 1978.
But set in 1962.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point you make.
Well, I mean, they purposely did that, right? They wanted it to be this period of time that was kind of like, not innocent, but innocent in a way, right? Like, it's before JFK was assassinated. It's when we're starting to get to like the sexual revolution and like feminism and women's, we're starting to get there. And it's this little period of time where like, a little like Pleasantville-y, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This like kind of, and so I think that's they very purposely set it in 1962 for that reason, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So Animal House, directed by John Landis, written by Harold Ramis, Douglas Kennedy, and Chris Miller, produced by Matt Simmons and Ivan Reitman, starring John Belushi, Tim Matheson, John Vernon, Verna Bloom, Douglas Kenney, Donald Sutherland, Stephen Furst, and many others. Cinematography by Charles Correll, edited by George Folsey Jr., music by Elmer Bernstein, and very, very interesting fact here, budget was approximately $3 million. In the box office, it brought in $141.6 million.
Yeah, when I was looking, it was saying, too, that they spent more money on, like, the marketing of this movie than they did on actually like filming it itself, because they filmed it in like 28 days on a college campus, so they like didn't have to pay a lot. A lot of the actors were not well known, like Kevin Bacon. It was his very first movie he was in, so none of them made a lot of money on it. In fact, Donald Sutherland, he was probably more well known than the other ones. Maybe he thought this movie was going to be like an absolute like complete bust, and I guess they asked him, like when he took on the role, they were like, do you want to, make like a percentage of like the gross income that we make, or do you just want a flat fee of like $75,000? And he thought this movie was like not going to be popular, so he took the $75,000. When in fact, as you just said, like the box office, this movie made tons of money, and it's become like one of the biggest cult classics ever. And if he would have took the like percentage, he probably would have made like millions off of this. Versus the $75K that he did.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he would have made approximately 3 million or 4 million or so.
Something
from
like
what
that,
I read
yeah.
online.
Yeah.
So
crazy. He missed out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got plenty of other stuff on his roster. He's okay.
He's doing all right now.
Yeah, Donald Sutherland's fine.
Yeah, so the general plot of this film, Animal House, just to give a general synopsis here. When they arrive at college, socially inept freshmen Larry and Kent attempt to pledge the snooty Omega Theta Pi House, but are summarily rejected, lowering their standards. They try at the notoriously rowdy Delta Tau Chi House and get in. The trouble is the college dean has it in for the Deltas. He has put them on double secret probation and secretly assigned Omega's president the task of having their charter revoked. So if that doesn't give you enough of an idea of what is going on, essentially we've got two houses here.
The slobs versus the snobs.
There's actually a third house too. The military people, basically. There's that guy.
He's part of Omega.
Oh, okay.
It was just like the ROTC. Because remember Larry and Kent. Is that his name? Kent?
Yes, I believe
Why
so.
can't I
Kent.
remember their
Yep. Larry
names?
and Kent.
Yeah, they were there in the uniform. It's like ROTC. That was the Omega president that was on the horse. Or one of the Omega guys.
Well, Larry and Kent are the ones that are trying to join Omega. Yeah.
Yeah, remember? They were there. And the Omega guy was like, drop and give me 20.
Oh.
It was like ROTC. Did you not have ROTC at your campus, your college?
I don't remember ROTC in my college.
Oh, it's like, what's the word I want? Like a military group, but they're based here in the U.S. Like in the U.S. They don't leave. They don't go to foreign soil. They like stay here.
Well, I was thinking of the third people as like the ROTC.
Yeah,
stuff,
they're not like a house though because it's a mix of Delta and Omega people. You know what I mean? Because Larry and Kent are part of it. So it's not a third house. We had an ROTC group at our campus. We used to go party at their house. I distinctly remember a Halloween party at the ROTC house when I was in college. But yeah, so like Adam was saying, though, essentially this movie is the snobs, the Omegas, versus the Deltas, who are the slobs. And the Deltas are just troublemakers. They just like to do pranks and, have fun. Essentially, they're living their best college life. Like, I would have wanted to be friends with those guys probably. And they're trying to fight against the man.
Yeah.
The dean who's trying to kick them out. And so this movie, like you said, it was written by Harold Ramis, who we know from
Ghostbusters.
Also Second City, right?
Yeah.
Second City guy.
Absolutely.
So this movie is a National Lampoon's movie, which listeners, if you know, there's like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, European Vacation, High School Reunion, which is this movie that no one's heard of and I can't find streaming anywhere, but I love it. But anywho's. So this is one of the National Lampoon's movies, and it's inspired by stories that were written by like Ramis, and Miller and the other guy, based on their own experiences at their own colleges, which I thought was interesting. You can tell it's very much inspired by things. Like it feels like a real, at least from my experiences of college, this movie kind of does feel like a bit of an exaggeration, but essentially like a real American college campus.
I think that's why so many people that go to college, so many, men, maybe women as well, put up the Animal House film poster.
No women.
Well, hey, I'm not going to be sexist.
I'm just saying, though, you would, if you found a woman on a college campus that had Belushi's poster, I would pay you $100.
I'm not going to start searching for it, but
but literally, I knew so many dudes that had that poster in their dorm room.
I feel it's just because it's just the concept of the characters that are in this movie, for that it's like a spirit animal in this movie that as a young man, whether they actually watch this movie or not, it's just that feeling of seeing John Belushi's character, or even the other characters in this movie. You're watching these people going into a frat house and just living their lives to this end all, where it's like the beginning of this movie, they're trying to, I'll say the freshmen going into the first frat house, they're like, can we join this one? They get rejected, and it's just this, pristine frat house anyways. There's no fun in what they're doing. And it's like, okay, well, they got rejected. Dang, that kind of sucks. And when they go to the Delta house that John Belushi's in, it is nothing but just having fun and being completely crazy. They're getting trashed.
Yeah.
They're getting totally drunk and just totally destroying the house anyways, and just partying with each other. And any dude, young guy who is going to college, that is the epitome of what they want college to be like.
Absolutely. No, you're totally right. Like hanging out with your friends, dicking around, like just doing
getting
whatever
drunk.
you want. Yeah, having parties.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this is the ideal college
That's college.
experience.
Yeah.
College.
Like, going to class? No, I just want to be hanging out with my buds.
Screw class. I just want to be with my friends. I mean, I definitely knew some guys like that in college.
Oh, yeah.
And they were fraternity guys.
And even if you're not doing that all the time, let the poster on your wall be a sign that's like, I can have a good life.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I wasn't doing that all the time. I wasn't in a sorority, but I honest to God can say I had a really good college experience. Like, I learned, I was nerdy. I definitely, like, the lowest grade I ever got was a B, and I was, like, really depressed about that. I was nerdy. But I had fun. Me and my friends, I had fun.
I think that's the nice staple of seeing this movie, or if you ever wear an Animal House t-shirt or just know this movie in the back of your mind, let it be a sign that you're like, you know what? I can have a good time with my friends.
Yeah. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
Like, the Deltas just had fun. And they're like such a family also. You don't get that vibe with the Omegas. They're just there because it looks good on resumes and stuff, right? But the Deltas, I feel like it's very much like a created family. Like, you could tell they like loved each other, right? In that brotherly way. Like, they were there for each other. They'd stick up for each other. And such an eclectic group of guys that all just seemed to get along, which I really loved. And actually, the reason why you get that vibe a lot too is when they were going to film this movie, they actually sent all of the Deltas to the location, to the university, like a week ahead of filming, so they could like just live together and hang out and kind of start to create those bonds. So it seemed even more realistic on film.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting to see that in this movie with the people that are a part of that Delta fraternity. They're all very different kinds of people that are a part of that Delta fraternity. But as you're saying, they are like a family. Mm-hmm. John Belushi's character is totally, I don't want to say misguided, but he is definitely out there in this movie. He's all over the place.
He is a character.
He is a crazy man. And some of the other characters, I should start using their names because they do all get very interesting names in this movie.
Yeah, so Belushi's name is Bluto.
Bluto. Like, I love it.
Isn't Bluto the name of the guy from Popeye?
Yes.
The bad guy?
Yeah. I was going to say it reminds me of the guy from from Goofy, but like
Pluto? The dog?
Not Pluto, but I was thinking of Goofy's
Oh! The bigger guy.
Yeah.
His name is also something like that.
Yeah.
But Bluto is the guy from Popeye.
From Popeye,
yeah. So yeah, we have Bluto, who's just like, he doesn't go to class. Bluto doesn't go to class.
No.
He's all about drinking and having fun.
Yeah.
And causing havoc.
And then we've got smooth talking Eric Stratton, who's Otter.
And he's the ladies' man.
And then we've also got Donald Schoenstein, who's Boone. Sounds like a woodlander or something. Like he's out in the woods and like he's gonna be like wearing like a fox kind of like hat, like a foxtail, like
yeah, like David Copperfield, not David Copperfield.
Copperfield. Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. It was the initials were right.
You almost had it.
I was there. I was almost there. And then we got D-Day.
Yeah, Daniel Simpson.
D-Day. It's just such an eclectic group of guys. Yeah, and honestly, all this movie is like a series of like pranks and shenanigans. Like the dean is just trying to get rid of them, and they're like, we're just gonna have fun. And they have a food fight, and they throw parties, a toga party, and they do something bad to a horse.
Yeah. But they have the toga party as a way to remedy a situation. Like, they think they're all going to get expelled or get rid of in the college. They're like, yeah, you know what? Let's have a toga party. That'll fix it. It's interesting to think that, if we were in their shoes, if we were in college thinking we're going to get expelled, our answer to that is toga party.
Yeah. Instead of like, oh, let's be good.
Yeah, maybe we should go to class and do our homework.
They're like,
toga party.
Screw that. We're going to throw a toga party. They start a food fight in the hall. They're just there to have a good time.
Yeah, it's their solution to everything. It's really just, and it makes me think, watching this movie, is that really, are these things I would do in real life?
I would go to a toga party.
Oh, I would go. But if I
was on, oh God, first of all, I would never be in probation. Like I said, I was a nerd and I was a goody two shoes. I would never. But if I was in trouble, the last thing I would do would be to
throwing
break the
a toga
rules.
party.
Yeah, I would be like, I'm going to sit in my dorm quietly alone and study.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about situations like this. It's kind of like, what is the answer for my issue here? And then my first thought, I don't think it would be, well, have a toga party.
Yeah. Definitely also wouldn't be to have an affair with the dean's wife.
Yeah,
or the mayor's wife.
Up.
The dean's wife.
No, it's the dean's wife.
The dean's wife. And then Larry almost
the mayor's
sleeps
daughter.
with the mayor's daughter.
Who it also turns out to be, she's 13 years old.
Yeah. I called that. Let me tell you. I was like, there's something up with this girl. And the way she was smacking on that gum, I was like, she's got to be young. She's underage.
Smacking on gum.
Yeah. This movie, I will say, it shows its age at times. I mean, obviously, like, it's filmed in the 70s, set in the 60s. 70s is now like 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely some scenes where I was like, you could not get away with that today. Firstly, the scene where they kill the horse. He didn't like purposely kill the horse, but they scared the horse and they had like a heart attack and died. Like, you couldn't do that. You know what I mean?
No.
A movie today, that could not happen. Then you also had the scene where Larry is like talking to the devil and the angel on his shoulders and trying to decide whether or not he's gonna rape this unconscious girl.
Yeah.
And he like looks like he wants to do it. He doesn't. He eventually was like, no, I won't do it. But it's like, when that scene was happening, I was like, Adam, we might have problems. Like,
yeah, that was pretty bad.
It's not great still, even. He didn't do it. It's still not great. But so like those scenes, I was like, this movie's a bit outdated.
Yeah.
But overall, it's still very relatable, I would say, to the college experience that some of us went through, at least for me, going through college in like the 2010s.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, there were some scenes in that movie that are kind of like, really? Like, this is what's happening?
Yeah. I mean, it's National Lampoons, though. That's what they do, right? They kind of go like right on the edge of being like...
Yeah, riding the fine line.
Yeah, like just like... I mean, think of like Christmas Vacation, right, with Chevy Chase. Like, some of the stuff they do is just like right there, almost being too vulgar and too much. But they like don't push it that far yet.
Yeah. It's interesting. And also, there's also the scene where later on, they get in Fred's car and they're just like, you know what, let's just leave campus and we'll just go somewhere. So they all jump in Fred's car and they're driving around, and I believe it's...
Fred is Kent's brother. It's Kent's brother's car.
Yeah. And so Kent is like, what are you doing? We can't mess up Fred's car. And he's freaking out. And of course...
they're like, screw that.
Yeah, and of course Otter is like, oh, it'll be fine, it's cool, and he crashes the car all up as he's parking it, and they go to a bar where everyone in the bar except for them is black.
Yeah.
That's
But,
another
like,
fine line.
The scene before that I thought was so funny. It kind of crass, but I did think it was really funny. So Otter, before they go to this bar, they stop at this all-girls school, and he goes in pretending to be the fiance of this girl that had just died. And so he's like distraught. And as he's like learning, right, that she passed away, and he's distraught. And then to like the pretty girl that's been telling him, he's like, would you go out with me? And can you get 3 dates from my friends?
Yeah.
Like, that's his way of like getting dates. He goes and pretends he's
but
like
the girl was totally fine with it. That's what I was kind of like, wow, this is pretty interesting. She's just like, I would do anything for you. And he's like, really? Would you go out with me?
Because he seems like this grieving fiance, you know, like it seems like he really liked her and he's sad. And she's like, oh, well, I want to make you feel better because you seem like a good guy. Again, it's like this like little idealized pocket of the early 1960s where everyone's innocent and naive. I thought it was great.
It's funny. It's just so funny because she's like, I can tell you really cared about her. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, like, will you go out with me?
And she's like, sure. Let me get my coat.
Yeah.
Fun fact, though, the bar that they go to, there's a band playing, who is the band that had also played at their toga party, right? And it was like Otis Day and the Knights or something.
Yeah.
The actor or the man who was playing Otis Day, his name was actually like Dwayne Jesse. But because of this movie and him portraying Otis Day, he was like so successful that he actually changed his name and like toured and started recording as Otis Day and the Knights.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to hang out with Otis Day and the Knights?
Otis.
They were a really good band, though. I mean, the guy who was portraying Otis Day was killing it in this movie. Mm-hmm. I'd hire him for my own parties.
What?
I said I'd hire them for my own parties.
I honestly just heard...
You cannot hear. Go to an audiologist, get some implants.
Part of it is hearing, but I think also part of it is just my brain. It takes me a while to sometimes decipher what I hear. Anywho, eventually we get to like the climax of this movie, right? And that is where the dean finally expels all of the deltas.
Because he's a fool and he doesn't understand what having fun is.
Yeah. And he's like, y'all, your grades suck, you're bad. You're out of here.
Yeah, it sounded like you just said suck your bed. So
suck your bed. Your grades are bad.
Yeah, their grades were bad. I think Bluto, which I was about to say Pluto, Bluto had a 0%, like a 0.0 or something. So
yeah. But you know, the deltas, they got to have one last hurrah before they leave.
They should have just had another toga party.
But no, should have. But what did they do instead? They planned to wreak havoc at the parade.
And they really did. They had a cake car, a drivable cake, essentially.
Yeah. They like just went and like interfered in the parade and just caused all kinds of havoc. They threw marbles all over the ground.
Also, Boone's ex-girlfriend tried to show up and remedy her relationship with him, and she got told off.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about Donald Sutherland at all. He's this professor they go hang out with and get high with, and it turns out that Boone's girlfriend was sleeping with him. Yeah,
that happens later, but Boone has a girlfriend in the beginning of the movie. Things are all fine and dandy, but then Boone and his girlfriend, she's like, Boone, what are you doing? You don't pay attention to me at all. I don't think this is going to work out with us. And he's like, oh, come on, girl. Like, why? What's going on? He doesn't say it quite like that, but come on, girl. What you talking about? So she basically cuts ties with him, essentially. And then as the film progresses, he tries to come back to her. And then he discovers that she is with another man. And so then he leaves her. And the man that she was with is Donald Sutherland, the professor.
The professor. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a movie, really. Just a bunch of shenanigans.
Yeah. The final scene, we've got the cake car with Boone and the other guys from Delta. And they cause the craziest havoc in the street to try and get back at the dean. and everybody else. And I would say they are very successful in doing so.
Yeah. And then what's interesting is they end the movie by like telling what happens to the characters in the future. And like all the deltas, you know, the screw ups, they all like go on to have like successful lives. Whereas the omegas are like, the one is killed in Vietnam or something, which is really sad.
Yeah, the RTO guy.
Yeah, they all like fail miserably in life. Like, and it just goes to show, can't judge anyone by their college grades.
Yeah, all the Delta people who had horrible grades and everything are incredibly successful.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I have any last minute fun facts before we kind of close out. The bottle of whiskey that Bluto chugs in the movie was actually iced tea.
I was gonna say when watching the film.
Well, so that was something that they were very cognizant of during filming, because Belushi did have like a drinking problem, and so they kind of kept him separated from the rest of the guys because they didn't want him like partying. So he stayed in a hotel like with the director and not with the other Delta guys. They kept him separate, kept him like away from parties and drinking and things like that. So it is iced tea, and he does actually chug it though. They were gonna set it up where the drink like goes in a funnel on the side of his mouth and you just wouldn't see. And he's like, no, I can chug it. And he actually chugged like a whole bottle of iced tea.
And apparently John Belushi's performance in the cafeteria was entirely improvised.
Oh yeah, the zit thing.
Yeah.
I feel like he was a really funny guy. Yeah, it's sad that he passed away like so young.
I would assume that he'd be pretty funny performing at Second City and hanging out with Harold Ramis and everything.
I mean, he's like one of the early cast members of SNL. Like, funny guy.
Yeah. So, Laura, I think this brings us into our reviews for this film.
Yeah.
What does Rotten Tomatoes have to say about
Rotten
Animal
Tomatoes?
House?
It has a 91% critic and a 89% audience. So pretty high, pretty far up there, which is no surprise, right? We already talked about, like, this movie is a cult classic. It's probably the most well-known National Lampoon movie, I would say. Yeah, like it's included in like the Library of Congress's whatever films, National Film Registry. Like it's just, this movie is quintessential. I don't know what to say. It is what it is. So I'm not surprised that it has like 90 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars.
Yeah,
4 out of 4.
That should say something.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised. For some reason, I feel like this wouldn't be Roger Ebert's like thing, but he really enjoyed it. I pulled a quote from one of his reviews that I thought did a really good job of kind of like encapsulating this movie. And so he said, it finds some kind of precarious balance between insanity and accuracy, between cheerfully wretched excess and an ability to reproduce the most revealing nuances of human behavior. That kind of goes along with what you and I were saying earlier, right? They like walk this fine line of like almost going overboard, but like not doing it. And you still like relate and you still get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And I think with all of that being said, I think that brings us into our slurps up or slurps down section of our episode. Slurps up meaning we think you should watch it, we think that you should check it out, and we recommend it. Or slurps down meaning we do not think that you should watch this movie. We think that you should avoid it at all costs, and we think that it belongs in the trash. Laura, slurps up or slurps down?
Definitely a slurps up. It, like we said, it's a cult classic. I'm honestly surprised it took me this long to watch it. I feel like I should have watched it before now when I'm 31, however old I am. It's great. It's fun. It's dumb. It's silly. It's what you want to just watch a comedy. You know, it's of that era of like the early Bill Murray stuff, like just that weird kind of comedy that was very much of the time. And I would definitely say that people should watch it. What about you, Adam? I
completely concur with you. And I gotta say that it's a slurps up for me. I agree that this movie is something that I think people should just check out. And my reasoning for that is essentially relatability. I went to college. I think that with the characters that are introduced in this film, it's really just a matter of understanding that these people just want to have fun. They are in college not for the fact of getting a good grade point average or going to class, but they want to be with other people that want to have a good time, and they want a social collective that wants to have a good time. And it's great to see that in this movie, and it's an understanding of having friends that want to have a good time. And I see that in this movie, and I enjoy it because I felt pretty similarly in college. Now, I won't say that I didn't go to school and didn't want to get good grades necessarily, but I did go to college and I wanted to have good friends and a good time. And I think watching this movie, I'm like, I get it, man. I get it. And I love seeing that. I love seeing the characters. And there's so many good things that I see in this movie with the comedy and, you know, all of the facts of this movie. I can't say enough about it right now. I think for the time that this movie was made, I think they covered so many great bases with what they were going for. So slurps up from me. And with that being said, that wraps it up for this episode of Screen Slurps. Be sure to follow us on social media at Screen Slurps on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Ghana, or any other podcast streaming service out there. And if you enjoy what you hear, slide on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. It will help us a lot. And if there's any crazy movies that you want to hear about, let us know. Leave a comment on one of our social media pages, and trust me when I say we will be sure to talk about it. So, closing out, I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Meisner.
Slurps up, and we will catch you later.
Later.